Most men are never taught how to love. They are taught how to please, how to chase, how to hold on. But not how to remain themselves. So they enter relationships with good intentions and lose themselves quietly. Not in one moment, but in 1,000 small compromises they call love. This is where suffering begins. Stoic love is not about being distant or emotionless. It is about mastery, over impulse, fear, and attachment. Because love without self-control becomes dependency. And dependency slowly turns affection into resentment. A Stoic man understands this early. The goal of love is not to be chosen. It is to remain aligned. In this video, you will not hear advice about how to impress, manipulate, or win woman. You will hear 7 principles that protect a man's dignity, clarity, and inner authority. Whether love stays or leaves. Because the most dangerous thing in love is not losing someone. It is losing yourself and calling it devotion. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where lessons about love will help you better understand this complex emotion. In today's video, we will learn together about 7 things Stoic men never do in love. These are things that can change the way you perceive love in life. Be prepared because the secrets and insights you are about to discover may make you look back at yourself and the relationships around you. Before starting, find a quiet space, put on your headphones and relax. Let your mind completely immerse in these shares and enjoy every wonderful moment. Are you ready to discover new things about love? Let's start this journey with us right now. Number 1. A Stoic man never loses himself to keep a woman. I've seen it too many times, good men slowly disappearing inside a relationship. At first, it looks like love. He listens more. He adjusts. He compromises. But then, quietly, something shifts. He stops saying what he thinks. He abandons habits that made him strong. He reshapes his boundaries, not out of wisdom, but fear. Fear of losing her. A Stoic man does not confuse love with self-erasure. Because the moment a man sacrifices his identity to keep a woman, the relationship is already dying, whether he knows it or not. Here is a hard truth most men learn too late. A woman may enjoy your flexibility, but she will never respect your self-betrayal. Respect is born from solidity. From a man who stands for something, even when it costs him affection. A Stoic man understands that love is not an exchange of approval for obedience. It is a meeting of 2 complete individuals, each responsible for their own inner order. He does not abandon his principles to avoid conflict. He does not mute his purpose to maintain peace. And he certainly does not apologize for being who he is. This does not mean he is rigid or cold. It means he is anchored. When a Stoic man loves, he brings his full self into the relationship. Not a negotiated version designed to be tolerated. He knows something most men forget. If you must shrink to be loved, you were never truly chosen. I've watched men turn their lives into waiting rooms. Waiting for replies. Waiting for validation. Waiting for permission to be themselves again. A Stoic man refuses this fate. Not because he is afraid of being alone, but because he respects himself too deeply to abandon his inner compass. He understands that attraction does not grow from accommodation. It grows from alignment. A man aligned with his values radiates stability. And stability creates safety, especially for a woman. Paradoxically, the more a man clings, the less desirable he becomes. The more he centers his life around her, the less space there is for her to admire him. A Stoic man keeps his mission intact. He trains his body. Sharpens his mind. Builds something meaningful, whether she is watching or not. Not as a performance, but as a discipline. If a woman enters his life, she enters a world already in motion. He does not ask her to complete him. He invites her to walk beside him. And if she demands that he abandon himself for the sake of the relationship, he does not argue. He does not plead. He does not negotiate his soul. He simply understands that love requiring self-destruction is not love, it is dependency wearing a romantic mask. A Stoic man would rather lose a woman than lose himself. Because he knows. A man who betrays his own values will eventually be resented, for the very sacrifice he made. This is the quiet tragedy of many relationships. The man thinks he is being loving. But what he is really doing is teaching her that his boundaries are optional. Stoicism teaches us something ancient and uncomfortable. You control your character, not outcomes. You can offer presence, loyalty, and integrity. But you cannot control whether someone stays. And once you accept this, you stop performing. You stop proving. You stop bending. You become still. And from that stillness, something powerful happens. Either the relationship deepens, because it is built on truth. Or it ends, because it was built on illusion. A Stoic man accepts both outcomes with dignity. Because the greatest loss in love is not losing a woman. It is losing yourself and calling it devotion. Number 2. A Stoic man does not react emotionally when he is tested. If there is one thing most men misunderstand about love, it is this. Not every emotional disturbance is a problem to be solved. Some are tests. A woman may not even realize she is doing it. She pulls back slightly. She becomes quieter. She delays a reply. She questions your decisions, or your certainty. To the uncentered man, this feels like danger. And danger triggers reaction. He over-explains. He demands reassurance. He argues to restore control. Or worse, he pleads. A Stoic man does none of this. Not because he doesn't care. But because he understands the cost of emotional reactivity. The moment a man reacts impulsively, he hands his power to the situation. Stoicism teaches mastery of the inner world first. Because whoever controls your emotions controls you. A Stoic man knows that love will test him, not to break him, but to reveal him. And what is revealed in moments of tension matters far more than what is said in moments of comfort. When silence appears, he does not panic. When distance emerges, he does not chase. When uncertainty enters the room, he does not fill it with noise. He remains grounded. Stillness is not weakness. It is emotional sovereignty. I've seen men talk themselves out of respect. They mistake emotional flooding for honesty. They believe intensity equals connection. It doesn't. Intensity without control creates instability. And instability erodes attraction. A Stoic man understands that his calm is not passive, it is deliberate. He pauses before responding. He observes before concluding. He asks himself one question before acting. Is this within my control? If it isn't, he releases it. He does not try to manage her emotions. He does not try to decode every shift in mood. He does not personalize what may have nothing to do with him. This emotional discipline is rare. And rarity creates gravity. When a man does not react, the dynamic changes. The emotional pressure falls back to where it belongs. Not as punishment, but as balance. A Stoic man does not rush to restore comfort at the expense of truth. He allows space, because space reveals intention. If she returns with clarity, he listens. If she returns with confusion, he observes. If she does not return, he accepts the message without chasing an explanation. This is not coldness. This is respect, for himself and for reality. Reactivity is rooted in fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of not being enough. Fear of loss. Stoicism does not eliminate fear. It teaches you not to be ruled by it. A Stoic man understands that attraction lives where emotional stability exists. When he remains composed under pressure, he becomes a psychological anchor. Someone whose presence feels safe, not because he reassures endlessly, but because he is unshaken. And here is the paradox many men miss. The less you react, the more you are felt. Because emotional control communicates confidence without words. A woman does not need you to explode to feel intensity. She needs to feel that you are solid, especially when things are uncertain. A Stoic man does not raise his voice to be heard. He does not dramatize to be valued. He does not react to prove he cares. He cares enough to remain centered. And if the test escalates into disrespect, he does not argue. He does not defend his worth. He withdraws his presence. Silently. Because Stoicism teaches one final, brutal truth. What you tolerate teaches others how to treat you. A man who reacts emotionally teaches instability. A man who remains grounded teaches boundaries. Love does not require you to lose control of yourself. It asks you to deepen it. And the Stoic man understands this. The strongest response is not always a response at all. Love is not only about happy moments, but also about challenges that help us realize our inner strength. It is through difficulties that we learn patience, tolerance, and how to love without losing ourselves. This is also the reason why I share stories here, so that you can find calmness and wisdom in your journey of love. If you feel these words touch you, please take a second to click like to spread this message. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click subscribe with the notification bell, to always be the first to receive new shares. Don't forget to leave a comment below. Share your feelings or a lesson you learned after listening to this story. Each line you share is a way for us to connect and accompany each other. Now, get ready, because the next part will bring you even deeper insights. Number 3. A Stoic man never asks for respect, he becomes unignorable. One of the most revealing moments in a relationship is when a man says, "Why don't you respect me anymore?" That question already contains the answer. Respect is not requested. It is not negotiated. And it is never restored through explanation. A Stoic man understands something most men resist accepting. The moment you ask for respect, you signal that you no longer command it. This is not cruelty. It is reality. Respect is not built through emotional appeals. It is built through consistency of character. I've met men who were kind, loyal, present, and still quietly disregarded. Not because they were bad men, but because their actions no longer carried weight. They tolerated too much, explained too often, compromised without limit. A Stoic man refuses this slow erosion. He does not demand respect with words. He demonstrates it through behavior that cannot be ignored. He keeps his word, even when it costs him. He leaves when boundaries are crossed, without drama. He does not stay where he is tolerated instead of valued. This is the uncomfortable truth. People do not respect what they can easily replace or endlessly test. A Stoic man is not cruel. But he is clear. Clarity creates structure. And structure creates respect. He does not threaten to leave. He simply has the capacity to. And that capacity is felt. When he says no, it is final. When he commits, it is real. When he withdraws, it is quiet, but absolute. There is no emotional blackmail in him. No manipulation. No need to prove strength through force. His strength is internal, and therefore stable. A Stoic man understands that respect grows where there are consequences. Not loud consequences. Natural ones. If someone speaks to him without regard, he reduces access. If someone disrespects his time, he stops offering it freely. If someone crosses a line, he does not debate the line, he enforces it calmly. This is what many men get wrong. They believe love requires endurance without limit. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Endurance without self-respect becomes self-abandonment. A Stoic man knows that love without boundaries decays into contempt. And he would rather be alone than be slowly diminished. What makes this powerful is not aggression. It is restraint. He does not correct disrespect emotionally. He corrects it structurally. By changing access. By changing availability. By changing his presence. And if respect does not return, he does not escalate. He exits. Without speeches. Without closure rituals. Without the need to be understood. Because he understands something deeper. A man who respects himself does not need to convince others to do the same. Women feel this instinctively. Not in words, but in atmosphere. They feel when a man's life does not revolve around being liked. They feel when his boundaries are not performative. They feel when his presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. This creates polarity. Not dominance. Not control. But grounded authority. A Stoic man does not posture. He does not intimidate. He does not overcorrect. He simply lives in alignment with his standards. And alignment is magnetic. The men who are most respected rarely talk about respect. They live in a way that makes disrespect uncomfortable to offer. That is Stoic love. Quiet. Unmovable. Unbegging. Because in the end, respect is not something you ask a woman to give you. It is something she feels when she realizes. This man would rather walk alone than walk against himself. Number 4. A Stoic man never makes love the center of his life. One of the quiet dangers in modern relationships is not conflict. It is overinvestment. A man meets a woman, feels connection, feels meaning, and without realizing it, he begins to orbit her. His schedule bends. His priorities shift. His world slowly narrows. What he calls love is often loss of direction. A Stoic man sees this pattern early and refuses it. Not because love is unimportant. But because a man without a center cannot offer stability to anyone else. Stoicism teaches order. First the self. Then duty. Then relationships. When this order is reversed, chaos follows. A Stoic man does not build his life around a woman. He builds his life around purpose. And if love enters, it must integrate, not replace. I've seen men turn relationships into their only source of meaning. When things go well, they feel alive. When things falter, they collapse. This emotional dependency is invisible at first, but it is felt. A woman may not articulate it. But she senses when a man's identity depends on her presence. And dependence kills desire. A Stoic man understands something fundamental. Attraction flows toward movement, not fixation. He keeps moving. He trains when he said he would. He works toward something that will outlive the relationship. He maintains friendships, routines, and silence. Not to appear busy. But because his life matters, regardless of who stays. When a man makes love the center of his life, he creates pressure. And pressure suffocates intimacy. The Stoic man removes this pressure by having a full existence. He does not check his phone compulsively. He does not cancel commitments to prove availability. He does not abandon his mission to manage emotional turbulence. This does not mean neglect. It means proportion. Love should enrich a life, not become its foundation. A Stoic man knows that the most attractive thing he can offer a woman is not obsession, but direction. When his life has structure, his love feels safe. He is present, but not clinging. Committed, but not consumed. Available, but not empty. And here is the paradox most men never grasp. When love is not your center, it becomes more stable. Because you are no longer asking it to save you. You are no longer demanding that it fill a void only purpose can fill. A Stoic man understands that relationships are mirrors. If his life lacks meaning, the relationship absorbs that weight. If his life has depth, the relationship becomes lighter. This is why Stoic men are often described as calm, even distant. But the distance is not emotional. It is existential. Their grounding comes from within, not from another person's validation. And if the relationship ends, their life does not collapse. It continues. With dignity. This resilience is not coldness. It is maturity. A Stoic man does not fear loss, because his identity is not on loan. He loves deeply, but he does not disappear. Because when a man makes love the center of his life, he slowly loses the very qualities that made him lovable. And when a man keeps his center intact, love has something solid to rest against. Number 5. A Stoic man is not afraid of being left. Most men don't fear losing the woman. They fear what her leaving would say about them. That they were not enough. That they failed. That they were replaceable. This fear quietly shapes their behavior long before the relationship is in danger. They tolerate things they shouldn't. They overgive to compensate. They stay silent when something feels wrong. Not because they are kind, but because they are afraid. A Stoic man sees this fear clearly. And he refuses to let it rule him. He understands that the fear of abandonment is one of the fastest ways a man abandons himself. Here is a truth learned only through experience. When a man is afraid of being left, he starts acting like someone who deserves to be. Not immediately. Not obviously. But slowly. He negotiates his standards. He delays hard conversations. He accepts emotional crumbs and calls it patience. A Stoic man does not do this. Not because he is fearless, but because he has made peace with loss. Stoicism teaches impermanence. Nothing given to you is guaranteed to stay. Including love. A Stoic man does not build his identity on someone else's decision to remain. He knows that if a woman stays only because he is afraid to lose her, then she was never truly choosing him. She was choosing his fear. And fear is not a foundation for intimacy. A Stoic man understands that real connection requires freedom. Freedom to stay. Freedom to leave. And if she chooses to leave, he lets her. Not with bitterness. Not with drama. Not with last speeches meant to change her mind. He lets her go with silence and dignity. Because he understands something painful but liberating. Anyone who can walk away from you was never owned by you in the first place. This acceptance changes everything. When a man is no longer afraid of being left, his energy shifts. He stops performing. He stops proving. He stops bargaining for affection. He becomes honest. He speaks when something matters. He leaves when something breaks his standards. He stays only when respect and desire are mutual. This does not make him distant. It makes him real. Women feel this deeply. Not because they want a man who doesn't care, but because they want a man who is not controlled by fear. Fear creates tension. Fear creates pressure. Fear turns love into a transaction. A Stoic man removes fear from the equation. He does not threaten to leave. He does not use detachment as a tactic. He simply knows he will survive if it ends. And because of that, his presence is calmer. He listens without desperation. He loves without possession. He commits without self-erasure. This is not emotional coldness. It is emotional independence. A Stoic man understands that clinging does not prevent loss, it accelerates it. The more you try to hold someone tightly, the more you remind them they are free. The Stoic man accepts that freedom without resistance. If she stays because she wants to. If she leaves with clarity. And he does not chase clarity that has already been given through action. This is what gives him quiet power. He does not collapse when things end. He grieves privately. He reflects honestly. And then he continues. Because his life was never built around one outcome. A Stoic man is not afraid of being left. He is afraid of staying somewhere that requires him to betray himself. And that difference is everything. At this point, you may have seen yourself in the stories above, sometimes weak, sometimes strong, and sometimes not knowing what to do in love. But it is those moments that make us real and worthy of respect. If you feel the same, please click like to let me know you are here, accompanying me. And if you haven't clicked subscribe yet, don't hesitate, because every day I will share more stories and new lessons, to help you have a calmer view of love. Now, let's move on to the final part, where we will touch on deeper things. Number 6. A Stoic man never argues to win. Most arguments in relationships are not about truth. They are about control. Control over the narrative. Control over emotions. Control over who feels small and who feels justified. This is why so many men exhaust themselves trying to win conversations. They bring facts. They explain intentions. They raise their voice, or their logic. And still, they lose something far more important than the argument itself. They lose respect. A Stoic man understands that winning an argument and maintaining authority are rarely the same thing. He does not enter conflicts to dominate. He enters them to understand, if understanding is possible. And when it isn't, he does not force it. Because Stoicism teaches restraint before reaction. A Stoic man listens carefully. Not to prepare his rebuttal, but to assess reality. Is this a misunderstanding? Is this emotional discharge? Or is this a boundary being tested? He does not argue with emotion. Emotion clouds judgment. And judgment determines action. When voices rise, he lowers his. When accusations escalate, he slows the conversation. Not as a tactic, but as a standard. I've seen men argue themselves into irrelevance. They explain every detail. They justify every choice. They defend their character as if it were on trial. A Stoic man refuses this frame. He does not put his worth up for debate. He knows that people who want to understand will ask questions. People who want to fight will look for leverage. And leverage is not defeated by logic, it is neutralized by composure. When a Stoic man sees that a discussion is no longer productive, he disengages. Not with contempt. Not with silence meant to punish. But with clarity. I'm not continuing this conversation in this state. That sentence alone carries more authority than 1,000 explanations. A Stoic man does not argue to prove he is right. He argues only when the outcome leads to alignment. If alignment is impossible, he chooses distance. This is what many men misunderstand. Endless arguing does not create closeness, it creates erosion. Each unresolved conflict chips away at polarity. Each emotional exchange where a man loses control teaches instability. Stoicism teaches that self-control is the highest form of power. A Stoic man knows that he can walk away from a heated conversation and return later, if returning makes sense. He does not need closure immediately. He does not need the last word. He does not need validation in the moment. Because his sense of self is not fragile. And here is the deeper truth. A man who argues to win is afraid of losing status. A Stoic man has already secured his internally. So he chooses his battles carefully. He speaks directly when boundaries are crossed. He listens when emotions are valid. He exits when disrespect appears. This creates a different dynamic. A woman learns quickly that emotional escalation will not control him. That manipulation through conflict will not work. That clarity, not chaos, is required to engage with him. This does not make him dominant. It makes him unmovable. And unmovable men create emotional safety. Not by being passive, but by being predictable in their standards. A Stoic man does not fear disagreement. He fears becoming someone who must shout to be heard. So he remains calm. Measured. Intentional. Because silence chosen consciously is stronger than noise driven by insecurity. And in love, the man who controls himself controls the direction of the relationship. Number 7. A Stoic man never loves unconsciously. Most people don't choose love. They fall into it. They mistake intensity for depth. Attachment for connection. Desire for compatibility. A Stoic man does not. Not because he is immune to emotion, but because he refuses to surrender his awareness. Unconscious love is intoxicating. It feels powerful. It feels destined. And it is also the most dangerous form of love. Because when a man loves unconsciously, he stops observing. He ignores patterns. He excuses inconsistency. He romanticizes potential. A Stoic man remains awake. He understands that feelings are real, but not always truthful. Emotion tells you how something feels now. Wisdom tells you where it leads. A Stoic man does not rush emotional attachment. He watches behavior over time. He listens to how conflict is handled. He notices how a woman treats boundaries, especially when she doesn't get what she wants. He knows that love reveals itself under pressure, not comfort. This does not make him suspicious. It makes him intentional. A Stoic man separates attraction from alignment. Attraction is chemistry. Alignment is character. One without the other leads to suffering. He does not confuse longing with meaning. He does not confuse passion with purpose. And he never builds a future on how someone makes him feel, only on how they live. This is why Stoic men often love slowly. Not because they are emotionally unavailable, but because they are emotionally disciplined. They do not outsource their judgment to desire. They ask difficult questions early. Not to interrogate, but to understand. How does she handle responsibility? How does she respond to discomfort? How does she speak about people who are no longer in her life? A Stoic man knows that the past leaves fingerprints. He does not shame. He does not control. He simply observes. And if reality contradicts fantasy, he chooses reality. This is where unconscious lovers fail. They fight reality to protect the feeling. A Stoic man lets the feeling die if it must. To preserve his clarity. Because clarity is more valuable than intensity. He also understands that love is not meant to complete him. If he enters love looking to be saved, he will accept what harms him. So he enters whole. Not perfect, but grounded. A Stoic man loves with presence, not projection. He does not imagine who she could be. He commits only to who she is. And if who she is changes, or reveals itself differently, he adapts or departs without resentment. This is not emotional detachment. It is emotional honesty. A Stoic man understands that love is a practice. A conscious choice renewed daily, not a spell cast once. He does not cling to the memory of how things were. He responds to how things are. And this is what makes his love rare. Because most people love to escape themselves. A Stoic man loves to meet reality. Fully. Open-eyed. Without illusion. And if love ends, he grieves, but he does not beg reality to be different. He integrates the lesson. Because Stoicism teaches one final truth about love. To love consciously is to accept loss without losing yourself. And that is the highest form of strength a man can offer. To himself. And to anyone who chooses to walk beside him. Conclusion. A Stoic man is not defined by what he demands in love, but by what he refuses to surrender. He does not lose himself to keep a woman. He does not react impulsively when emotions are tested. He does not beg for respect, make love his identity, fear being left, argue to dominate, or love without awareness. Not because he is cold, but because he is conscious. In a world that confuses intensity with depth, the Stoic man chooses clarity over chaos. He understands that love is not proven through sacrifice of self, but through alignment of values. His calm is not indifference. It is discipline. His boundaries are not walls. They are standards. And his strength is not loud. It is consistent. A Stoic man accepts a truth most people spend their lives running from. Love cannot be controlled. Only offered. So he offers it without attachment to outcome. If love deepens, he meets it with presence. If it fades, he releases it without resentment. Because he was whole before love. And he will remain whole after it. This is what makes him rare. Not perfection. Not dominance. But self-mastery. When a man governs his inner world, his relationships stop being battlefields and become reflections of his inner order. And that is the quiet promise of Stoic love. To love fully. Without losing clarity. To commit deeply. Without losing direction. To accept connection. Without fearing loss. In the end, a Stoic man does not measure love by how tightly he holds on, but by how calmly he can stand in truth. No matter who stays. Thank you for watching the whole video. I hope that today's sharing about love will bring you new perspectives and help you gain valuable lessons. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share it with your loved ones. I am very grateful for your companionship, and hope that each video will help you get closer to a happy and lasting love. See you in the next videos. Wish you a wonderful and inspired day.